and it's Jax Feeley.
Yes. Yeah. Just think a touchy, you'll get a feeling.
Just think a touchy, Feely. Love it, mate. Love it.
It saves lives because my message isn't about gender. It's about life.
When did you learn that you're trying to fill a void?
The in-between bit, is the hard bit. That's what makes you. That's where the growth is. Everything's going to be hard. Just choose which hard.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Getting Back Up with me, Anthony Ogogo. In this podcast, I talk to people that have done great things, achieved massive things in both their life and or career, but only after suffering massive setback and adversity. This one is a banger, one of my favourite episodes. Today, we have Jax Feeley on the podcast. When I spoke to Jax, it was one day after he retired from being a prison officer, which he'd done for years, looking after some of the most hardened criminals in the country. And what Jax is most well known for is he's a transgender man. He spent his first 28 years of his life as Jessica Feeley. And then when he was in the prison service, he took that decision to change and become Jax and live true to himself. Jax has got so many life lessons from his years in the military and in the prison service, and now doing what he does. He's a spokesperson for his community. You can learn a lot from Jax and his story. So, without further ado, please get ready for this one. Enjoy it, learn from it. Let's get stuck in.
Jax Feeley, you are, first and foremost, an absolute legend.
Thank you.
I really mean that wholeheartedly. I've followed you now for about a year on the gram.
That means a lot to me, thank you.
Hey, I mean, and I love your stuff. I'm looking forward to the listeners and the watchers of this podcast to learn more about you and what we're going to talk about. But before I go on, you are a podcaster yourself. A very, very good one. I've watched all your stuff. You're an expert public speaker. Fantastic. No, you're very articulate.
If you say so, I'll take it.
No, you are, man. You're fantastic. You get your point across. Brilliant. You're a funny guy. You're a nice guy. You are a life coach, aspiring to be a life coach, and you're doing great things in that world. You are a retired prison officer as of yesterday.
I am. Yeah, I am.
We'll talk about that. You're also a former soldier in the Royal Air Force. Jax Feeley. First things first, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, mate. A lot of questions today. I want to try to be as polite, respectful as I possibly can. If I do say anything that offends you or members of your community, I apologise. I just want to learn. And I think this is how we learn, by asking questions.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the first question I'm going to ask you today, and probably the most important question I'm going to ask you, how the bloody hell are you, mate?
I'm all right. I like coming to London for the day. Yeah, I'm excited about this podcast. I think we've been trying for a long time, and I'm excited to talk to you. I love having new conversations. I love meeting new people, and I love spreading the message and inspiring people to live a life more true to themselves. So, yeah, I'm good. So
with that being said, mate, let's not beat around the bush, shall we? As I said, you're a great public speaker, a life coach, a podcaster. But why are you on the Getting Back Up podcast today?
Well, I think I'm on the Getting Back Up podcast because about 2.5 years ago, I made the decision to transition from female to male whilst serving as a prison officer. And the impact that has had on me, has had on the most hopeless individuals in prison, has set me on a mission to inspire millions of people to live a life more true to themselves, whatever that might mean.
And use the word mission. I love mission because mission means to me, when I hear mission, it's it has to happen.
Absolutely.
This is getting done.
Yeah.
This isn't like I'm going to try. I hate the word try. I hate the word try. And when I catch myself saying try, I give myself a little slap on the wrist. This isn't a try or I'm going to have a go at. No. This is a mission to inspire.
You just give me goosebumps. just saying that, like, it genuinely just giving me goosebumps. Then.
But you said it to me. Like, these are your. I'm just saying back to what you said to me.
I know it's mental, innit? I think it's because I'm so used to saying it that you don't really feel the power of it. And then you said that to me. Then like, this has to happen. I was like, yeah, it does. Like, it absolutely is happening. And I don't even think I realise sometimes how much I've actually done and how far I've come. I think I don't really stop. And then you go, sometimes you just stop and go, fuck, I'm going through a lot. But just gaining that momentum and going for it, like it just gives me goosebumps hearing you say it. But yeah, absolutely a mission, yeah.
Mate, whenever I'm a guest on a podcast and they ask me, what one thing would you tell your younger self? I always say, enjoy the moments along the way.
Absolutely.
Because we're always so much on, especially people that are extremely driven, on a mission to get to that place. Everyone wants to get to the top of Mount Everest. And the example that I use is everyone climbs Mount Everest and they work, and they get to the top. And I've never done it, but what I've been told, the view from the top of Everest is a bit shit.
Yeah.
Because you're so high up, you can't really see anything. Now, the ones that get the most, and this is I think this is represented in life, and certainly on my own journey and what I've done in my life, you can climb Mount Everest. And if people that get the best experience, they climb it and they stop halfway every certain, a few steps, they turn and they look at the view. Because I know it sounds really cheesy, but it's not really about the destination. It's about the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I literally say that all the time. Like it's about taking one step at a time and enjoying it as you go. Because if you don't enjoy the journey, you're going to miss it. And a lot of people just focus on the end goal and don't realize that all those tiny steps are what you need to do to add up. And then when you do look back, you think, oh my God, like how far have I come? And I do that all the time. And I think we all want it right now. And we all put our happiness on the destination, but the happiness never comes every time you reach the destination because you're not enjoying the process. You're not enjoying. For me, it's about finding the happiness in your everyday life, in the little things that make you tick, you know, and especially when it comes to transitioning, like you want it now. You know, for me, I was 28 years old when I made that decision that I needed to do this and I wanted it all now. Like I didn't want to be in the awkward in-between awful stage of feeling like a complete freak. But I found the ability to enjoy every day and be excited every day. Like I am becoming who I want to be a little bit more every day. You know, little bits about me is changing a little bit more every day. I'm doing this every day. I'm doing that every day. You know, I'm a bit more confident today. I looked someone in the eye a bit more today. I felt less anxious today. You know, I laughed more today. I achieved this today. I went back to the gym today. I did all these things. So I think you have to find the ability to enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point? Like I don't believe in being miserable the whole way and then thinking the happiness is at the end. Like that's not what's going to happen. I think too many people like just go on that mission and miss their own life.
You mentioned loads of special things in that, and we're going to come back to a few of those things.
Yeah, you've got to stop me because I'll just.
No, mate, crack on, man. You've got a wealth of amazing things that you need to get off your chest, and I want to hear it. And the people listening to this, they want to hear us. I mean, you talk well, you do you. As I said, you're a great public speaker. You talk very well. You're very articulate, and you can help teach people and educate people. On this podcast, as well as telling your life story, which we're going to get into, I want people to. I want to get educated myself, and I want you to help educate other people because I think that's how we learn, that's how we grow. I think. You mentioned a few things there. One thing you said was happiness. Happiness. I'm glad you said it. I knew you would. I thought you would. I've seen enough of your stuff to know that you say happiness quite a lot. And you seem very happy. We met outside 12 minutes ago. You've barely stopped smiling, right? You seem a really happy dude. So happiness, what is happiness to you?
I mean, like I just said, like I'm happier than I've ever been. And I think you cannot find happiness by searching for it in all the external things. You can't find it by searching for it in achieving this, doing that, climbing that mountain. For me, I believed my happiness lied in making my parents proud, which, you know, it does. Obviously, that's all I've ever wanted to do. I want them to be proud. But I believed that if I just do that and suppress everything else, that I'll be happy. But it doesn't work like that. Like you can't continue to suppress your authentic self, whatever that means, whatever is going to make you feel whole. And I think it takes looking yourself in the mirror and tearing yourself apart and finding out what that pain point is, what you really want from your life, what hard decisions do you need to make. You know, you have to do the hard things, you have to do the scary things, and you have to think, how on earth do I get where I want to go, and actually take those leaps. Becoming the person who enjoys their everyday life, like becoming that person who, you know, really appreciates the time with my dogs, really appreciates the time with my friends, really appreciates the fact that, you know, I grow an extra hair on my face every day. You know, do you know what I mean? Like I wake up and I don't have boobs. Like that's fantastic. You know, I wake up and I'm like a little bit more good looking today because I'm becoming the person who I always wanted to see in the mirror. So instead of wanting what I'm going to look like in 5 years, which I wanted initially, like I wanted to just run off, disappear, not let anyone see me in the in-between bit, or you know, and then come back like 2 years later looking like I do now. Because the in-between bit is the hard bit. That's what makes you.
The growth.
Like, that's where the growth is, you know.
Journey.
The only reason I've left the prison service is because I know that my body is saying, stay in the comfortable, stay in the safe, stay with your friends, stay with what you're good at, stay, and all those things. Because I'm feeling those things, I know that that's time to leave because that's where the growth is. I don't want to stay the same. I've achieved everything that I can. And I've literally just left a job with nothing to earn money from because I'm going on this mission. And you're right, it's going to happen.
Has to.
So you have to find what is true to you. Otherwise, you're just going to suppress and suppress and suppress. And one day it's going to come out in a midlife crisis or whatever else because you're not being true to yourself. And too many people do that because of fear.
So I ask my family sometimes, like when I get a guest on, any questions, because like I've lived a certain experience and I want to know certain things. I think it's nice to get a more of a broader experience. And one of my sisters said to me, she went, why so late? Like, why do you transition so late into your life? By that point, you're a fully fledged woman. Why so late?
So that is like the most common question that I ever get because it blows people's minds. Like, what is it? And there's kind of two answers to the question of how did I know? So I only came to the actual realization and the decision at the age of sort of 26, 27. But when I look back, I absolutely knew. I just didn't have the vocabulary to verbalize how I was feeling. And that is because of the lack of representation and visibility within the media. You know, I want to become that visibility because that is what reassures people that their life is worth living. So if you can't see it, you can't believe it. You know, for young queer children, if they can't see themselves in the world, how do they see a future with them in it? So I didn't know trans was a thing. I didn't know I could be a man. I didn't know any of these things. But when I look back, you know, I used to have an over-compulsive prayer that I said in my head like all the time. And I used to say, please don't anything bad happen. I would never change anything. Please be okay, everything. And I love being a girl. And I did that from the age of like 6, 7 to the age of about 22 and didn't even think about it. It was just a compulsive thought that was always going around in my head, or like I'd say it 50 times before I went to sleep. And I look back now and I think you've just spent 20 years trying to convince yourself you was happy being a girl.
Trying to convince yourself, yeah.
Yeah. So when I look back, I absolutely knew, but it didn't really hit me until I'd gone through the world of mental health struggles. I'd been a gay woman. I'd been in the military. I'd been a prison officer. I was putting myself in dangerous situations because I was angry with the world. And I fell into a YouTube hole of all of these trans men documenting the journey and, you know, building this body and being models and being all these things and living a life, and started becoming painfully jealous of these people because I'm thinking, I can do that. I could do that. I should be doing that. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, but I absolutely can't do that in Wigan. I absolutely can't do that in a prison. And I absolutely can't do that to my family. So it was only when I got to the point of, you know, not wanting to die, but not wanting to live anymore, that I had to face this. And I've always been someone who's said to everyone, when it feels scary to jump, you jump. Otherwise, you stay in the same place your entire life. And it was my time to take my own advice. I had to do that. And when I did tell them, they were terrified and devastated, because the thing that hits a parent and family when you tell them something like that is fear immediately. You know, the world's hard enough. Like, I don't want you to get all of this abuse. You know, what's going to happen to you? You work in a prison. Trans people's existence is questioned constantly within the media. People, you know, and I'm not disputing that a range of people this happens to, but trans people still get attacked and murdered for being trans. And it's a dangerous place to be, especially when you're then going to walk into a prison as well. So, as well as the fact that they gave birth to a daughter, they named that daughter. You know, they've had 28 years of Jess. That's not just going to disappear. Like, that's hard. It doesn't just affect me. Like, it affects everyone who cares about me.
Did you feel the pressure?
Yeah, and I have to be open-minded to understand that, because as much as someone doesn't die, you do have to grieve a person. You know, I've had to grieve Jess. They've had to grieve Jess. And for me, you know, and this isn't the case for everyone who transitions, but for me, I never wanted to kill Jess. I never wanted to get rid of Jess. You know, I had to say to them, I'm not killing her. She's not going anywhere. She's coming with me. I love her. I just can't have her be the image anymore. And initially, they didn't want to let go of the little girl. It was hard for the first few months, and until I had to have that conversation, you know, it's a dead daughter or a living son. Like, what do you want me to do? I can't do this anymore. Like, I've tried for 28 years to be Jess. I've tried with everything in my power to be this girl. I've gone out, I've worn the dresses, I've worn the heels, I've done this, I've been in the military, I've joined the prison service, I've tried to do everything to make you proud and be happy as Jess, and I can't do it anymore. I'm 28 years old. I either jump off a cliff or I do this. And that started to change things. And obviously over time, they've realised that their child is their child again.
That right there. You mentioned tingles at the beginning. You mentioned goosebumps. I'm sitting here shivering with goosebumps. That right there, mate, is gonna, I hope, save people's lives.
I hope so.
In the biggest thing. Let people know that they're not different. You mentioned the word complete freak earlier. We're going to come back to that later. They're not complete freaks. They have someone like you to look up to. And I'll normally do this at the very end, but I'm going to lean over, I'm going to shake your hand, mate.
Oh, thank you.
Genuinely, that was awe-inspiring.
Thank you.
So for you to be you, you know, it's obviously a journey, as we've spoken about. Not little Jax. What was little Jessica like? Grew up in Wigan, mum, dad, brothers, sisters? Or?
Yeah, I have. I've got a brother and a sister.
Where do you sit in there?
I'm the oldest, and then my sister, and then my brother. And we've always been the closest, most amazing family, you know. And I put a lot of pressure on myself for that, because Jess had no reason to be so sad. Like, Jess had no reason to be so messed up and like anxious, and you know, there was always an element of feeling uncomfortable for me no matter what I did. But I've always had the most amazing family in the world, and they have always supported me through absolutely everything. And my thing with all of this has always been to try and protect them and try and help them through this, and try and help them go through this and take them on the journey with me, you know, at every point. But little Jess was just as smiley as I am, you know, life and soul of the party, you know, tried to be everything that I am now, apart from the fact that it was exhausting because it was fake. And now people are shocked when I'm exactly the same, but it's because it's just natural happiness. Because for me, it was literally just the image. That is literally all I had to, like, I am like, Jess is everything. Like, she's with me all the time. I talk about her like it's like she's someone who I've lost but is with me, because I just couldn't have her be the image. And I think over time that's proven to everyone that was absolutely right. Like, people watching me now and they're like, you just can't see the weight on someone's shoulders until it's gone. And they saw their child get the light back in their eyes, and that proves to anybody that this is right, and it's changed them.
What was your moment of clarity, so to speak?
I think I always knew there was something, because there was always an element of feeling like I didn't fit in somewhere. There was just always that element of feeling anxious and feeling uncomfortable. You know, I didn't want to shop in the girls section because I felt really uncomfortable, and I couldn't shop in the boys section because I was a girl. And, you know, the amount of times I'd just run out of shops crying because I hated that whole thing of like, where do I fit in? You know, I don't really feel like I fit in with the girls. I don't fit in with the boys. What is it? You know, and I think in terms of transitioning, the first time it ever came to me was when I came back off tour about 6 years ago, and my mental health was sort of in the bin in general. And then obviously I'd just come back from that, which, you know, takes its toll anyway. And I didn't leave my mum's side for about 2 months. Like, I went hairdressing with her because, you know, she was a mobile hairdresser. I couldn't look anyone in the eye. I couldn't stop crying. I was so depressed. And my mum knew for a long time that I'd considered taking my own life because I just could not figure this out. And the first time I sat down to her and said, is it because I want to be a boy? Is that what's wrong with me? Is that why I'm so depressed? And in that moment, she was like, no, like, of course not. You know, you're this beautiful athletic woman. You know, I was always like really into my sport, and I was a tomboy, and I had this athletic physique. And she was like, you wouldn't be you know, if you weren't Jess. Like, everyone loves you. You know, you're brilliant. You know, she used to call me Miss Congeniality. She was like, you. And in that moment, that's what we both believed. And she says to me now, you know, if I'd have turned around and said, yeah, Jess, you know, you should have been a boy. And I'd have thought, well, my mum says it's all right, I'll do it. And then it was the wrong decision. She'd have never forgive herself. She was like, it had to come from you. It had to come from you. And that was the first time I ever sort of spoke about it. And then after we had that conversation, I buried it for probably about another 2 years before I had another conversation about mental health. And said to this person, oh yeah, like, I used to struggle really bad with my mental health. You know, I used to think I'd wanted to be a man. And I just like said it really blasé, like I dealt with that. And I had that conversation at the age of like 26, and it just stuck. Like, as soon as I had that conversation, it was just there, and it wasn't going away this time. So I had to face it, but it took me 2 years.
So we're going to the trans conversation, let's talk about that in a moment. Like, I think if we came in and spoke about just your transition and then trans, that's done a massive disservice to you, because you are way more than just that. I am way more than being just mixed race. So like, you're way more. So let's talk about you, right? So you've lived an awesome like life, and you're still a very young man. And
Chaos, mate. It's just chaos.
Mate, all the best lives are, right? Like, I don't know what day of the week is most days.
Yeah.
And this may all link. I don't know. I guess we'll figure out now. But this may all link into the same thing. But like, growing up as a kid, mate, like, what did you want to be? What did Jess want to do, other than be a boy?
Well, to be fair, she didn't like. I just love my sport, and I wanted to be in the police. I just wanted to be doing something active. I wanted to be busy because my mind was my own worst enemy, and I wanted to just be, running around and wrestling and whatever else. I thought for a long time I just had bad mental health. I was just anxious and like uncomfortable. Like, I didn't think it was because I wanted to be a boy. You know, obviously I came out as a gay woman first at like 19, 20.
So growing up at school, That's what, mate. I'm fascinated. Like,
I hope I don't have to go. Honestly, I hope I don't wake up like different again, because I can't go through coming out a third time. I can't. Like, my mum and dad will just fall apart. I can't.
yeah. So growing up as a kid, so Jessica, young, happy, vibrant. I can. You said soul of the party, life and soul of the party. I can see it just from this interaction now. I can almost see you as a little girl, weirdly enough, growing, running around, just being happy. So you wanted to be a policewoman. Then what journey did you go? What was school like? Was school difficult for you? Did you get bullied?
You know what? I don't really talk about school. No one's ever asked me about that. And I had actually had this conversation with my mum the other day, because obviously primary school, you know, you're just a kid, aren't you? Like there's nothing really that sort of gets you. But then as soon as you go to high school, like the world hits you. And
it's a big jump, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, I had to wear a skirt and I wasn't really girly. And, you know, when you're surrounded by a lot of girls who wearing makeup and they know themselves and they're really confident, and then you've got a bunch of boys who can be really horrible and, you know, asking my friend, like, why are you mates with Jess? She's a man. You know, or like, you know, walking past me and shouting things like that. And
did you get bullied at school?
No, I wouldn't say bullied. I was just, because I just completely threw myself into my sport. That's where my confidence was.
And what did you do? What sport did you do, mate?
In school, I was playing hockey and netball and everything that they'd let girls do.
Okay. Even that in itself, you didn't want to be doing that, really? Did you?
No, I just wanted to be sport. You know, I was just, you know, whatever it was, athletics, hockey, you know, that was where my confidence was, because I didn't have to think about being Jess. Like, for me.
I mean, did you want to be doing the quote unquote girl sports?
I don't think it was a conscious like thought, because back then it wasn't a thing. Like, you know, I didn't think I want to be a boy. I just thought, I'm just not girly. Like, I don't want to be like that. And it was just so. Outside of sport, I just always felt really uncomfortable and like quite shy and embarrassed in that sense.
That was your safe space. Sport on the hockey court or the pitch was your safe space.
Yeah, like for me, a uniform has always been the safe space, because I could be me. Like, I didn't have to think about what to wear. I didn't have to think about how to be. I could just be, because I was good in a uniform. I was good in a sports kit. I was good in the military. I was good in prison uniform. I was good. I can do anything. I can achieve anything. I can go shopping. I can do whatever. But take me out of a uniform and my head falls off.
That's so interesting.
Like, from going to high school.
Yeah.
So school was not something that I enjoyed whatsoever. And I think a lot of it has been like blocked out for me. Like, because I don't have those conversations, you know, and even my mum said to me the other day, she's like, you don't need to, like, it wasn't nice. You don't, you know, because I just wasn't happy. And it was somewhere I would never go back to. I can't tell you why. I just know that it wasn't nice. And I think it's something, because I've done so much work, like, in me, but I think that's the one thing that it's just shut off, because I just think that it's something that probably really upsets me.
A big traumatic event, or
no,
just
an accumulation of maybe like mental bullying, you know, like throughout, from being a kid up to, you know, into adulthood, I was always called a man. I don't know if you've seen pictures, but
in a negative way.
Yeah.
By peers.
By like from school, but whether it was lads or, you know, if you fall out with a mate, you're like, oh, you're an effing man or whatever. It was always the go-to insult, and it made me massively insecure, and I didn't look like a boy.
I've seen pictures, yeah.
Like I'd be in a pub and I'd go out in a dress and heels and like hair like down to my bum, and like men would walk up to me in pubs and be like, are you a bloke? Or like I'd get shouted at in women's toilets. Like this is a woman's toilet, blah, blah. And
I've got a friend of mine, Heather Fisher. She's a rugby player.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She suffers from alopecia. She had no hair. And she's quite... She played rugby for
I sent her a message actually after she was on that programme saying like how well she came across. Yeah.
No, I'll put you in touch. She's a lovely girl. Lovely girl. But she's quite... Masculine, a lot of masculine energy, right? But she's also very feminine as well.
Yeah.
And she goes into female toilets and women like... pull their kids away because they think she's a man.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
soul
horrendous.
destroying. Yeah.
It is soul destroying, and it sounds really strange because obviously I'm a man now, and that's how I identify, and that's how I am. But back then, like, it's so embarrassing and hurtful, and like makes you feel so ashamed and so embarrassed. Like, it's, no one wants to be misgendered. You know, I didn't want to be a woman who looked like a man. I didn't want to be a man who looked like a woman. I just wanted to be myself. And I didn't understand why all these people were constantly saying this. I was like, I find it hard enough to adjust to like wearing this dress, and you've just completely ruined. And I used to be in tears about it all the time because
People are fucking horrible, aren't they? People are just dickheads, man. Like, people are just...
Yeah, and I just think...
Like, kids are kids. Kids will say stuff. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's right. I'm not condoning it, but kids will say stuff. But when you're a teenage girl, and the teenagers have enough issues about the way they look and feel anyway, to go to a pub for a grown man to say that to you. What a
Why
dickhead,
would you
man.
do that?
Yeah.
And it just used to break my heart all the time because it's just not nice.
I guarantee right now, when you say something to somebody, when you point the finger, there's three pointing back at you. And he's talking about himself. Right? That man, whoever said that, I mean, I guarantee you're sitting here now way happier about yourself than them arseholes in the pub still there.
Yeah.
So fuck them. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed. Even though it happened
no.
15 years ago, I'm still annoyed.
I mean, mate, I get way more hate now and it just flies over my head.
Well, we'll come on to that, mate, because that's something, you know. So the military. So how did that come about?
So I left school, went to college, and then I started working at a total fitness gym. And I was still sort of experiencing, you know, like mental health struggles and whatever else. And obviously I'd always wanted to join the police. And I don't think they were recruiting at the time and something like that. And I knew I needed to do something that would fulfill me and challenge me mentally and physically. So I applied for the RAF and I got in at 19 and I was like, I'm going to go and join the RAF. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. You know, I've got an unbelievable amount of pride, you know, for being part of it. And, you know, when I did join, me and my family thought, right, this is it, we've cracked it here. You know, it put me in uniform, like it made me stand tall, it made me stand proud. I was surrounded by all these like confident, powerful, independent women who knew themselves. They were gay, you know, so it made me think, oh, that's who I am. You know, because I was questioning my sexuality anyway. And, you know, they didn't dress really masculine. They didn't dress really feminine. They were just themselves and they were just like me. And it made me feel at home. And I was always busy and I was, you know, being challenged physically because I was super fit and I was traveling all over the world and I was doing all these things. And it just filled a void for a long time because that's all I was ever doing. I was just trying to fill a void all the time. You know, I'll buy a car, I'll do this, I'll do my house up,
It's great that, so to interrupt your flow, because this is a great conversation, filling the void is something that takes most people a long time to understand. So when did you learn that you're trying to fill a void?
I think I only started learning all these things about myself as I started to transition.
Okay.
Because I've made it an absolute priority to look inside myself and develop that self-awareness and develop the insight of what is it, what do I need, what makes me bad, what makes me, you know, what do I struggle with, what do I want to improve on, how do I build confidence, how do people do that, and so I only really sort of realised that when I actually begun the journey of being my authentic self.
So we'll come back to that. So go back to the RAF, mate. That's how my brain works. It's like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
it's like a Catherine wheel of thoughts. If I don't ask, I'll forget. I'll be in the car in 2 hours' time.
Right.
Oh, I should have asked Jax that question.
We'll do like part 5. So I felt at home. I felt like we cracked it. We all thought I'd be in the military forever. You know, this is fantastic. I didn't have to be Jess. I didn't have to think about being Jess. I could just be RAF. You know, I played rugby in the RAF. I was, you know, I was playing a good level of that and I was flying everywhere and I was in a uniform and I just didn't ever have to sit with Jess. So
the perfect escapism.
It sorted me out for 4 years. I was in the RAF for, and we definitely thought we cracked it.
Who's we?
me and my family, you know, because I was so much happier and I was busy and I was doing everything that I needed to do. I was challenged physically and mentally, and I was just everywhere. And
You said you were busy. In those moments of quiet, of silence, what thoughts were in your head?
I was terrified of being on my own. I wouldn't let myself. I just would not let myself. I've always been very scared of my own mind. And I'm not now, but the fear still lies there. Like if I have a bad day or I feel a bit anxious or whatever, and I'll panic because I never want to feel like that again. I never want to think, oh, I'm this sad or I don't want to be here. Or I don't, because I love my life and I love my family and I love everything. And I always did. I just weren't settled within myself, and I didn't know why. I just was just uncomfortable. I was just anxious and just depressed. And when I weren't doing something or I weren't in uniform, I wasn't okay.
Any stories from the military that you want to go into?
It sort of filled the void for, I'd say, 3 years. And then what happened was I started playing semi-professional rugby. You know, they put a lot of focus if you're playing sport within the military. So they kind of guide you in that direction. And I got posted from the tactical unit that I was on, which had me flying here, there and everywhere every week, to allow me to play more civilian rugby, which then caused me to change to work in like basically a desk job. And I was, but like, I changed instantly because, oh yeah, like I thought I was going to be playing loads of rugby, but I was playing like 2 times a week outside of work. And the rest of the time I was sat behind a desk, and that was the first time that I had to sit with Jess. And it lasted, it maybe about a week in, and I started deteriorating like really fast and become really depressed really quick. And I then started to realize like there's something wrong. And at that point, that's when I obviously got sent away on tour for 4 months. And then when I did come back, obviously I ended up having those conversations with my mum. You know, I wasn't okay, and I left the military. I made the decision to leave because I needed to just be with my mum. And at that point, I still didn't know. And before I had to break it down, I got a job in the prison service and just started a brand new void to fill.
That fascinates me, the prison service, because actually going back a second, I want to thank you for your 4 years of service to our country. I do, and I have the utmost respect for anybody who serves in the military because, it's a career that I'd love to have done at some point. I've just filmed a series of celebrity SAS who dares wins.
Yeah, that's class.
And yes, my military career lasted a full 8 days. So, I mean, the show lasted 8 days. I got to do like the end of the show.
Fantastic thing to do though, like to test yourself like that.
Mate, it was amazing. It was amazing. It's really cool. As I said, mate, my respect for the military is tenfold. So working in the prison service, how does Jessica Feeley operate in that environment when you're potentially, working alongside rapists, killers, what is that? That's strange to me. And also building rapport with these people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. There's not enough information for society to understand the prison service. Like, it is it's a massively forgotten service. You know, it's an underestimated role. You are not there to just unlock doors and lock them up. Like, you are everything. Like so the ratio from officer to prisoner is 1 to 40. So say you've got a wing of 100 men. There's 4 officers to manage that. So if you don't have something about you and have the ability to treat those people like humans, you're in a very dangerous situation. You become everything to those prisoners. Your mum, dad, therapist, nurse, fireman, policeman, punch bag, friend, whatever it is. You're everything. You're the person that they go to, and if they're in a bad mood, you're getting it. If they're overdosing on drugs, you're saving their life. If they set fire to the cell, you're putting it out. If they're crying because they've lost a mum, yeah, all those things I've done, And if they try to kill themselves, you're finding them. Whether you're saving them or whether you're too late. if they're having a great day and you're having great banter, that's fantastic. You know, if it's the human beings, and a lot of these people have, you know, although done terrible things, and that's not justified, but a lot of these people have been brought up to believe that, you know, if I act bad, I receive love. If I act good, I'm neglected. You know, they don't know how to manage their own emotions. Their mum sent them to pick up the drugs at 5. You know, people have been hooked on heroin from 10 years old. They've been severely abused in care. They've never dealt with their own trauma. You know, they don't understand that me and you could have an argument right now and then move on and get over it and communicate. They think, well, some people, obviously not everyone, but some people that think, oh, well, I don't know how to do that. Like, if we have an argument, I have to hate you forever and burn your house down and take revenge. You know, I have to prove myself in that way so that my dad will love me. So once you start actually figuring out how these people work, you find the ability to see the people and not justify, but understand why they are where they are.
But how do you show empathy to somebody who's a convicted rapist?
So I've never worked with sex offenders. I didn't work in a prison, you know, and I would absolutely struggle with that. I don't think I could have been a prison officer with sex offenders.
Murderers?
But yeah, I've worked with every other type of offence, yeah.
How do you show empathy to somebody that's murdered a child?
Again, I've never worked with people who have murdered a child because they would be protected.
Yeah.
So prisoners have morals. So you've got prisoners have morals. Mm-hmm. So like, you might have a murderer, but if you've killed a baby, I'll kill you. You know, there might be an arsonist, but if you're a rapist, I'll kill you. Like, there is morals in prison. So like, certain offences like abusing children, paedophilia, killing, all these things, you end up on a protected wing, otherwise you will be killed. So that is often separate, and I haven't worked with those people. In terms of showing empathy
to people that have done bad stuff.
For prison officers, you're not there to judge their offence. They've been judged by the court. That's what they've been given. They're serving their sentence. You are there to manage the prison and keep them safe. So, and keep yourself safe and your team of people. So never in a million years would I justify anything that anyone's done. But they are still people, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
I don't want to come across like I'm glorifying crime.
Oh, no. I think you're coming across as being a very balanced young man. I think you're coming across as, you know, done a very difficult job for a long time, which many people couldn't do. I'd struggle to do it. But I think you're showing your human character, your skills, by being able to see the person beyond the crime.
Yeah, because anyone can end up in prison. Mm-hmm. I could end up in prison tonight.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know if you end up in a scrap or, you know, or whatever. Someone runs in front of your car.
I mean, like, everyone, I believe, everyone, I can't talk for anybody, I'll talk for myself. I could kill somebody. If I walked in and see somebody do something bad to one of my sisters, my wife, my family, oh, they're getting stabbed. They're getting beaten to, you know, and so I could end up in prison. So I get that aspect. And I guess, and again, if I was in prison, I'd want somebody to see me rather than the crime. Yeah,
you've got to think, you know, if my brother ended up in prison tomorrow, I'd like to think that those prison officers were keeping him safe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they are still people who have been through a hell of a lot. And in my eyes, I just wanted to try and, because the majority of people join the job to try and make a difference, even though you can't do that because of the ratio of officer to prisoner. So, you know, for only speaking for me, I wanted to try and help people develop the insight to learn about themselves and change. And you can maybe only change 1%, but if you change 1%, you've done something. And that's massively been the case for me, obviously transitioning in front of them like 3 years into that job.
That's the thing, man. That is the really exciting thing for me, because you and the brave thing, you didn't just transition, which, when I say the word just, nothing just about it, a huge like life altering thing, but you transitioned whilst working in the prison service amongst prisoners. Oof.
Scariest thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
In what respect?
so I served 3 years as Jess first, so they all knew me as Miss Feeley, who was a lunatic. Like, I was so angry. You know, I was the same person and I was good at my job, but I had very short fuse. Like, and I would snap quick. But
So what does that look like? Give me an example of Jax Feeley snapping in prison.
I'll give you an example, right? So, for example, you're not allowed to wear your flip-flops on the ground floor. So, do us a favour, mate, go and put your trainers on. No, fuck off, you slag. You fucking what? Blah, blah, blah. Now, I'd be like, go and put your trainers on for us. Give me abuse. Listen, go and put your trainers... You know, like, you would have the ability to communicate with that person without it turning into a fight. Yeah. Whereas Jess would be like, who are you talking to? You know, and just go. And there was a complaint about me once. Well, there's been like several complaints in the past, but I reached a point, especially in like the last 6 months before realising I had to like deal with my shit, where I was so angry and I didn't realise it, but I was suicidal. Like, I was putting myself in dangerous situations because I wanted to fight and I just wanted to have a go at everybody, and, you know. And my governor pulled me in and said, I've had this complaint off this prisoner, and, you know, he was like twice the size of me. If I could choose between being in a shark tank with a shark or being on the landing with Jax Feeley, I'd choose the shark tank every time. And I was like, are you joking? Like, you're taking this seriously? Like, you think I'm one woman? Like, you think I'm terrorising 90 men? But that was like how it was, you know. And you put yourself in dangerous situations being like that. And I'd lost all ability to be rational because I was in such a bad place. And so when it came to obviously transitioning, that was the day when I had that complaint, and, you know, they were going to give me a mentor and all these things. That's when my head fell off, and I sort of stormed out that office and burst out crying and knew that I had to deal with my own thing. And initially, I went off from the prison service. I went off sick and didn't tell anybody anything, and wasn't planning on going back because I thought the last place I can do this is in a prison. You know, prisons are one of the most dangerous, volatile places anyway. And when you combine that with a protected characteristic that a lot of people disagree with, you put a massive target on your back. And I ran off and I went off sick, and it was about a month and a half later that I thought, I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it properly. And it should not be this fucking terrifying to just be yourself. And I'm going to go back to work and I'm going to live my life the way I want to, and I'm going to change how people think about this because it's not right. And if I do this in the right way, I can change how people think, and I'm going to take them all on the journey with me, staff and prisoners, and we'll just see what happens because I'm ready to die anyway. So going back, I, at that point, worked on, it's called a psychologically informed planned environment, which is basically for, it's a smaller unit for complex individuals who have very much been stuck in the system, and they struggle to manage their emotions. They don't know why they act the way they do. They haven't dealt with their own trauma and all these things. And we basically teach them how to function, how to live a life, how to develop relationships, how to, like show them that there's people who won't give up on them, and there's all these things. And when I went back, I sat down and I just told them, I looked exactly the same. I'd just shaved my head. I hadn't started hormones or anything. I still had boobs. I still looked exactly like Miss Feeley. I'd just cut all my hair off and walked back in and spoke to them about, being suicidal and having to do this, and telling them that you have to do the difficult things to get where you want to be in life, and you have to face your own demons, as scary as it is, and understand how powerful being vulnerable is and not running away from that.
Explain that. The powerful vulnerability is a really powerful thing. Explain that.
Have you ever come across Brene Brown? So she explains it perfectly, which is vulnerability. People are brought up in this world to believe that being vulnerable is weak and being courageous is brave. But vulnerability is defined by risk, uncertainty, or emotional exposure. And there's not a single act of courage that doesn't involve risk, uncertainty, or emotional exposure. Because you can't go to war without feeling vulnerable with that courage. You know, if you don't feel afraid, then that's not courage, is it? You can't have the difficult conversations. You can't have a conversation with your wife who is dying of breast cancer about how you're going to raise the kids without feeling absolutely terrified. You can't do the difficult things without being vulnerable, because it is at the heart of absolutely everything. You can't have real relationships. You can't feel real happiness. And by sitting, talking to them prisoners and telling them that if you don't put yourself in the position for it to go really, really bad, you're not putting yourself in the position for it to go really, really good either. You have to put yourself in that vulnerable place. And they were watching me in the most vulnerable state I had ever been in. They were watching it happen. They literally watched me transition from Jess to Jax every day and allowing them to ask questions and learn about it. And because they knew that I wasn't bullshitting when I told them you have to do the difficult things, it started to give them the courage and the belief to change their own life. And it has. You know, you commented on a video I put on this morning, and
powerful shit, mate.
This guy, you know, he had been, so a long time ago, they used to give people what's called an IPP sentence, which means, you know, when people were a bit of a nuisance or they were like repeatedly committing, you know, petty crimes and stuff, they would hand out this sentence, which was effectively, you are on license forever. So it's basically a life sentence. So this guy I'm talking about, he was sentenced to 2 years, but unless you pass a parole board, you can't leave prison. He's been in 17 and he was sentenced to 2.
Pass a parole board, what do you mean by that?
So when you're in prison, for example, when you're sentenced to say 10 years, you serve 5, and then if you pass a parole board, you will go out and be on license for 5. If you don't, obviously you stay in. With these sentences, you are on license forever. So even when he gets out, he'll be on license forever. He'll have to abide by certain rules, blah, blah. They don't give them out anymore because it ruined people's lives. Like, it left people completely hopeless. It was like a bad thing to do, basically.
Yeah, and the one thing we need in life is hope, no matter what we are, who we are,
exactly,
where we are.
Yeah, it left everyone so hopeless. So because he was, you know, a very bad drug addict at the time, he obviously hadn't dealt with his own trauma. He was just in prison and he got sentenced to 2 years. He was hopeless, and was not a good person for a long time. Was, you know, fighting with prison officers and staying on drugs and whatever else. And it took him coming to the pipe unit after like 15 years in prison at this point, and listening to me and working with me and the people I worked with and all these things and doing that work. And he became a completely different person. And now he's, you know, probably one of the nicest, most respectful people you will ever meet, because he's done that work. And he, do you want me to tell this story?
Please do.
He, so about a year into being there and transitioning, I held an event at the prison, a transgender awareness event, to thank the prison for, you know, coming on that journey with me and supporting me and all these things. And the lads off that unit, there was only 10 of them, were allowed to come up to the event. You know, I'd made a documentary with my family and everyone I worked with, and my governors and everyone, talking about how it had affected everyone, like me transitioning and the impact it had and everything. And they were allowed to come up, and I had T-shirts made for them to wear. So I had 3 T-shirts made with pink, blue and white for the trans flag colours, and they all had a butterfly on the front, and on the back they all had phrases that I live by. So one of them said, feel the fear and do it anyway. One said, remember who you are. And another one said, be unapologetically you. And this guy came up to me on the morning of the event, and he was like, Feely, I'm going to wear a jumper under my T-shirt. So I'm thinking, like, it's boiling up there. Like, why would you do that? And he was like, I've not left the wing in 16 years without long sleeves on, because he had very severe self-harm scars all down his arms. And I said to him, like, what does that T-shirt say on the back? And he said, be unapologetically you. And I said, well, what do we always talk about? Like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You are a completely different human being. Those scars are proof that you made it through. Those scars are proof that you are a completely different man, that you've changed your life around. And look at you now, like you've completely changed your life. There is nothing to be ashamed of. Those scars are part of your journey. They make you you. You go up there and you tell everyone and you show everyone who you are, and you be proud of that. And he did. And he was like, you're right. And he was like, you're right. Like, we have just spoke about that for the last year. Like, you're right. And he went up there and off his own back made a speech in front of 150 members of staff and told them about me and how I'd inspired him to want to inspire others, and how I'd saved his life, and how he's clean from drugs because of this, and he's this, and showed everyone his scars and said that he wasn't ashamed of them anymore because they're part of his journey. And it was unbelievable, like the impact that, you know, he wrote me a card to leave with yesterday and told me that he owes me his life. And he was gutted that I was leaving, and, you know, hopefully he'll get his parole at the end of this year. But it saves lives, because my message isn't about gender. It's about life. It's about transitioning. It's about doing the things you don't want to do now for the long-term gain in the future, because every single person is constantly going through some sort of transition, whether that's leaving prison or leaving a relationship or leaving the military or moving country or changing job or transitioning gender, or, you know, we are constantly all going through these transitions, and they're absolutely terrifying. But that is what I want people to do, because the most common phrase said in that nurses and care workers have reported from people lying on their deathbed is, I wish I'd have lived a life more true to myself. And people don't, because of fear that it won't work, fear of what someone else will think, fear of failure, fear of this, fear of that. And then they get to that point and they go, why didn't I try?
So how do they do it?
You have to do the scary things. You have to look yourself in the mirror and go, why am I so upset? Why am I so sad? Why do I not want to live anymore? You know, what's causing me to feel like this? Am I happy in this relationship? Is this what I want? Am I willing to put up with this? You know, what am I scared of doing? How comfortable am I in my life? Am I testing myself? Am I challenged? Am I fulfilled? What do I need to do? What life do I want to live? Who do I want to be around? What am I consuming? What am I doing on a daily basis? What are my habits? What's contributing to me being happy and healthy and who I want to be? And am I just avoiding everything difficult? Because you do all the easy things now, you'll have a hard life later. You do all the hard things now, you'll have a great life later.
Muhammad Ali once said, I hated every minute of training. But I said, don't quit, suffer now, live the rest of your life a champion.
Exactly.
And that's what's all about, doing the hard shit, eating the frog, they say. Eating the frog, do the hard thing first, and live the rest of it. Do the hard things at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is yours.
Yeah.
And put the hard work in now. Even if you hate the training, do the training, then live the rest of your life a champion. And that's it. Like, making the transition is doing the training. And now, like, talking about living the rest of your life a champion, mate. You are a champion. We haven't finished yet. There's loads we want to talk about, but I just want to say you are a champion, mate.
Thank you.
And I just, like, if people are watching this, if you're hearing it, I'm sure you can they hear the happiness that you emit when you talk, if you see it, even more so. But being in the room, being a meter and a half away from me now, I'm honestly, like, you are such a inspiring person.
Oh, thank you so much.
The mission's already complete because you changed one person's life.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
There's almost 900,000 and 900 more to change, and you're on the journey, mate. So well done, mate. We can do this again for sure, because there's loads of things I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about I don't really want to do it. I want to talk about some transgender stuff now. Do you know what? You mentioned before no one's ever really talked to you about your school, your upbringing, which surprised me because, well, actually, no, that doesn't really. Like, I'm actually fascinated about you rather than trans this, trans that. Like, you're a fantastic person in itself. The fact that you used to be a girl, now you're a boy, is a part of the journey. It's not the whole journey.
No,
you know,
absolutely not.
It's a bit of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle. So thank you for sharing everything, mate, as you have done. It's been fantastic. It's been really, really interesting to listen to and learn about. Like things, I don't want to go into this today, but things like I want to ask you, life as an adult woman. Actually, no, fuck, I'm going to ask you now, right? It's just, I want to talk about trans stuff, and it's like, it's my brain again, mate. That's how it works. That's how it works. So if I'm going to go home and nobody else might care about this, but I care about it. You've lived a life as an adult woman and now as an adult man. What's the difference? Like, what's better? What's worse? Forget about you in this situation. Forget about you. Have you seen the film Barbie, by the way?
No, not yet.
Man, it's
No,
really cool.
I've not watched it yet.
There's a bit in Barbie.
I need to watch it, yeah.
It's actually, I loved it. I thought it was really good. There's a bit in Barbie Land, it's all about the Barbies. And Kens are like the second-class citizens almost. Like, but all the president is a woman, the Supreme Court, they're all women. Very much Barbie's like, it's a woman's world.
Yeah.
Then it comes to the real life, going to LA, and they're walking down the street. And then Ken, Ryan Gosling, he's like, hello, I'm the good one. I'm the important one. And Barbie, she's like almost a second class citizen. She's like the lesser one. And it's a great film about like male, like masculine toxicity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as a person, who's lived both as a man and a woman, what's a better? Not Jessica or Jax, but as a man or woman. Have you seen the differences?
There is differences. Absolutely, there is differences. Male privilege is absolutely a thing.
100%. And that's what I was getting at.
Absolutely a thing. And for me, you see, I don't look visibly trans. And that can, get me criticism for not looking trans enough. It can get
from
me
whom?
From
the trans
community.
Or?
It can, not everyone, but it can give me that. It can give me criticism from TikTok with people telling me to kill myself and I need electrocuting and you deceive women and all this bollocks. So, but male privilege, because it is not obvious to people that I'm trans. I've been in so many situations where I've been with a friend or a female colleague, whatever, and they've asked someone for something or about something or whatever, and they've turned straight to me and spoke to me instead. Or, in the prison, I've had a female prison officer with me and asked a guy from Works to do this, or have you got any of this? And he's turned around and been like, you're all right, pal, da-da-da. And it is absolutely a thing. And it's shocking. It's shocking to be in that position and go, wow. And I will always, change the situation back round because I know how it feels. But you absolutely get more respect from men as a visible man, so to speak. I wouldn't if I looked like I did at the beginning, where people didn't know whether you was a girl or a boy. They'd give the female the respect, because I looked like the weird one. But now that I'm, a fully fledged male in their eyes who wouldn't know, the respect goes straight there.
Mate, I was in a meeting earlier, as you know, and there's a couple of men, a couple of women, and I found myself doing it. And I'm like, listen, I love women. Women are the best of us, and I respect women massively. Mum raised me, got 4 sisters. And I literally gave myself I slapped myself on the wrist today. So I was talking to 2 men and there's 2 women, and I found myself looking them in the eyes more than the women, and I got so angry at myself. And it's easily done.
Yeah, but it's not always malicious or on purpose, but it's just there.
Yeah, and I had to catch myself. And when I caught myself 10 minutes in, I was only staring at the women, and I thought, now I'm talking to them. Now they're going to think I want to get with them. And I thought, that's mate.
And I've had to learn that as well. Like, I'm like a really real tactile person. When I saw you before, I give you a hug. But and obviously I've got a lot of female friends, because I was in that world and, especially as my prison officer friends and whatever. And I've always been really tactile, or like I'll take the piss and, how you do with your friends, you might be inappropriate or whatever, like giving them a hug or something. And when I first started transitioning, I was like, can I do that now? Can I still do that? Can I still give you a hug? Can I still, wind you up, or all these things that you have to like reevaluate? And now when I meet new people, I have to like really check myself and go, okay, so I can't act like that how I do with my friends who've known me for years, because I don't want to come across as someone who's like, perving on you or being inappropriate or whatever if it's a female, because she might feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, you have to like completely navigate all these things so different. So it's unbelievably different, the life you have to live, but it's in the intricate movements of you and how you behave and your tone of voice and your body language and, what you see and what you do. It's in the little things that, having lived a life as both a man and a woman, you notice. Do you know what I mean?
No, well, only as much as...
Yeah,
no.
I mean, like, you're clearly very aware of things like that, which is amazing. Like, you're aware of yourself and you're like, oh, I'm doing that. Not many people would do that. Not many people would even think about it. So the fact that you're even going, I'm doing this, is like amazing.
I say this as a joke, and I mean no disrespect by saying this. I really don't. But my mum raised me, and I got 4 sisters. There's never really been any men in my life. So I'm half a bird, mate. I'm half. I say that.
We all are.
Yeah. So I'm quite in tune with certain things. Maybe more than the most men. Maybe more than most boxers. So me being a boxer was very like against the grain. Like a lot of boxers become boxers because their dad boxed, their granddad boxed, their uncle boxed. I just had to defend myself against my sisters. My mum picking on me.
Yeah.
Mate, this is the Getting Back Up podcast where I talk to guests with wonderful stories that have done great things in their lives, but only after suffering massive setback and adversity. There's so much more I want to talk about.
I know. I'm gutted I have to go.
Yeah, and me too.
I'm sorry.
Next time, mate, we'll do a 3-hour thing. But we've still got 10 more minutes before we wrap up. And there's a whole. I don't want to throw away big questions, and I don't want one-word answers. I want to go into the depth. This is deep dive. This is powerful, impactful shit. This podcast, I created in my head. This was born back in 2017, 18, 19, when I was on the cusp of giving up on life because I was in so much pain and hurt. I'd lost my boxing career. I lost vision in my left eye. I almost lost my wife. And I was in a real bad place. I was suicidal, and if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be here. And I wanted to create a library of inspiring stories that people can listen to give them hope. I mentioned hope earlier. It's so important, having hope that tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, things will get better.
Yeah, just one more day, innit?
It's one more day, one step in front of the other, right? One stair of the staircase at a time. And not even just that, people that are on the cusp of greatness, listen to these inspiring stories to get them there, right? A little bit. So this is about you, mate, and your story and your journey, and people being inspired by you. And I think already there will be. I certainly have.
I hope so.
Transitioning. Not just talking about from girl to boy to boy to girl, like you mentioned, like from boxer to non-boxer, from relationships, from marriage to divorce. How do people get through these dark days? And what advice can you give anybody about anything from the wealth of life that you've lived?
The thing is, right, I spent 28 years looking for something and I found it in myself. Like, if you do not look in the mirror, you're not going to get anywhere. And for me, you are the revolution that you're waiting for. People are waiting for something to fix it. People are waiting for life to fix itself, and it's not going to. So unless you can allow yourself to feel your feelings and actually feel them, not suppress them with drink or drugs or distraction, you have to feel the hard things.
It's scary though.
And it's terrifying. I'm not saying it like I am in no way, shape or form saying that this is easy, because it is terrifying and I still do it every single day. But what I've learned is that the growth you get from doing the hard things and the scary things is unbelievable Like happiness is truly on the other side of fear. And if you can lean into what you're afraid of and lean into vulnerability and really understand yourself, no one in this world can touch you. Nothing can touch you because you know you. You know what you're about. You know who you are. You know what you need. You know who you're around. You know what you love. You know how you tick. You know what makes you bad. You know what makes you better. If you know yourself 100%, in my opinion, if you don't live a life 100% authentic to you, nothing else in your life is authentic.
But what if you don't like yourself when you look in?
Why?
What if you're not who you want to be?
Who do you want to be?
A better version of, I'm obviously not talking about myself right now. I'm obviously talking about a generic man.
You have to ask yourselves those questions. And people think, yeah, if I look myself in the mirror and I do this hard thing once, you'll fix it. No, like you have to do this. You have to check in with yourself, you know, whether that's once a week, once a month, every 6 months. You have to check yourself and go, what direction am I going in? What do I want? What means something to me? Am I just going with the flow? Am I coasting? Am I comfortable? Am I safe? What do I actually want? Am I staying in this relationship because I've been in it for 5 years? Or am I staying in this relationship because I'm really, truly happy and this person is what I need? Am I staying in this job because I'm happy? Or am I staying in this job because I've put 20 years in and I shouldn't really walk away? You know, you have to ask yourself those questions and you have to find the courage to answer them. And you have to listen and go, oh my God, because people just bury their head in the sand and avoid it and expect it to just fix itself. And it doesn't work.
Which leads into when you ask yourself those questions and you hear that scary answer that you don't want to hear, then you've got to, as you say, do the scary thing to grow.
Yeah, because, you know, like I said before, when it's scary to jump, that's when you jump. Otherwise, you stay in that place forever. So for me, they say change happens when the fear of staying the same becomes worse than the fear of making the change.
Say that again, mate, so I can hear it.
Change happens when the fear of staying the same becomes worse than the fear of making the change. My fear of staying the same in life is worse than the fear of me just walking away from my job yesterday. So everything's going to be hard. Just choose which hard.
On that one, mate, I just wanted to share this little story because you sent me a voice message yesterday and I laughed my tits off when I listened to it.
Why?
Yesterday was, it wasn't even that funny, but I'm easily pleased.
I don't know what you're going to say now because I can't remember what I said.
No, it wasn't a funny thing. It's just I just thought it was really funny. You left the prison service yesterday. Me and you were dropping voice messages to each other on your last day, and you said that normally when the officers leave, they get thrown with eggs and flour by the prisoners as like a jovial, like it's like throwing eggs into school when you leave, right? Eggs
They'd usually do it to prisoners. They wouldn't do it to a lot of officers.
Oh, to other prisoners.
Do it to prisoners, but
okay.
They would not do it to a lot of officers.
Gotcha.
I think it was because of the level of love and respect that was there that I got something like that.
So yesterday, on your last day, you said goodbye to your colleagues and obviously the other prisoners that you'd looked after, saved the lives of and supported over X amount of years. What was your send-off treat?
Covered me in glitter.
That's so funny. That's so funny. How did that come about? How did that happen?
It was because there's a guy who I worked close with for years, and he is I call him an absolute princess. Like, he loves it. You know, the sassiest man you will ever meet. Absolutely embraces his sexuality as a gay man, a feminine man within the prison service, and owns it and holds it. And, you know, I've got the absolute respect for that in that environment. And a couple of years ago, I opened his cell door on his birthday and chucked a load of glitter all over him. I was like, happy birthday. And like just chucked glitter everywhere. And it's the little things.
Did he have to tidy that up?
Yeah. And it's the little things like that I think have a massive impact on people because, you know, for him, I was the person who always came back, who never left, you know, who never did the things that his parents did and his this and there's that and whatever, and reminded him that there was someone who wouldn't give up no matter how much abuse he gave me and pushed me away. And so we had, you know, a special professional relationship, and he's been waiting to do that for years. And they collared me outside to look at something, and next minute I had a full tub of glitter on my head. So I had to wash my hair about 6 times because I messaged you and I was like, I'm going to be like sparkling to fuck on this camera. Like I'm either going to look really sweaty or like the odd like shine. So I think I've got it all out, but then I'll see this and be like, look at that. Look at the state of you, because we probably can't see it, and I'm going to see it on camera like, oh. But I love glitter, so.
And also, mate, obviously the glitter, the act is fantastic, but the metaphor, the meaning behind that, the fact that you've really been there for somebody that probably hasn't got many people, if any, that really like cared for him and supported him, gave him that hope that's so important, as we've spoken about. That's amazing, mate. Listen, we have to wrap this up. I'm now going to drive to Euston Station. Before we wrap this up, where can people find you, follow you, and yeah, carry on? But 100%, we'll do this again very soon. There's going to be a part 2 to this. We haven't spoken about any of the transgender stuff that I wanted to learn. I feel like I've learned a lot about you, and then this is a good thing. I've learned a lot about you, the person, like Jax Feeley, and I hope the listeners, the watchers, have also done the same. They've learned about you, because this isn't about like we haven't learned much about the community that you're part of. And I want to learn more about that. Yeah. With that being said, man, where can people find you and follow you?
So you can find me on Jax Feeley on Instagram and TikTok, jacksonfeeley.com, and Live Your Truth, the podcast on YouTube.
Fantastic, mate. And also for those that want to learn more about the community, the trans community, and some of your experiences, your website, jacksfeeley.com, is a great website. I went on it last night, as you know.
It's not finished yet, but yeah.
No, it's really good, mate. That's really good. You've got a great website. Thank you so much for coming on today. Get to make our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll do this again very soon, okay?
Absolutely.
Cheers, mate.
Change happens when the fear of staying the same becomes worse than the fear of change. Wow. I mean, that right there is so powerful. And there is a litany of nuggets of inspiration and gold that Jax was talking about. Unbelievably inspiring and powerful. There will be a part 2 coming really soon. We've already recorded the episode. I got back in the studio with Jax and we spoke about being trans and what that's all about. I asked him all the difficult questions. I asked him those questions, and when I was asking the questions, my toes were curled, thinking, oh, please don't take offense, but like I want to learn, and I think we all need to kind of learn, because as Jax mentioned in the in this episode you just listened to, like hate crime, trans hate crime is the #1 hate crime in the UK and around the world, because people don't understand it, and I guess people are scared of what they don't understand. And the part 2 episode of Jax, we talk all about that, why it's the case, what people are so afraid of. I talk to Jax about the transition, about his journey. He goes into detail about that. So stay tuned for the part 2 coming really, really soon. However, back to this episode. As I mentioned earlier, change happens when the fear of staying the same becomes worse than the fear of change. Oh, that's so powerful. And I think we all go through that. We all struggle with that. I mean, it's easy to stay in our comfort zones. It's easy, that's what we do. Like as humans, we want to be comfortable. We don't want to get pushed. But we only grow when we get pushed. We only grow in times of discomfort. That could be doing exercises. That could be learning things about yourself, asking difficult questions with your friends and your family. And I get it's hard. It's hard to take that step. That first step is the hardest step. But as Jack said, when it's scary to jump, that's when you jump. Like that's when you do it. When it's scary. He made a great quote about courage and what being vulnerable is all about, and the whole it's an amazing podcast. You've just listened to it, you understand how powerful that is. Remember, like a little, again, stealing a quote from Jax, life is hard. Everything is hard. But the great thing about life is you get to choose which hard. You carry on doing what you're doing, things are gonna get hard down the road, or you live your true life. You make that change. Yes, it's hard, but you get to live true to yourself. And again, obviously we all go through change in life. Jax went through a massive change. Changing gender is probably a bigger change that most people will go through. But we all have jobs. We have relationships, some of them end, our jobs end, we all change all the time. And I think, yes, Jax went through a massive change. We can learn the lessons that he can teach us through the massive change that he went through. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. A lot of hard work goes into bringing these stories to life every single week. So please like, share and subscribe to this podcast. It really, really helps. If you think somebody can benefit from listening to this podcast, please send it to them and let them get the amazing lessons that Jax talks about. Next week, the podcast rolls on. Every single week we get a brand new guest on. It's a positive, happy, inspiring podcast. So like, share, subscribe, and don't forget what Jax said. Life is hard, but you get to choose which hard. And remember, in life, when you get knocked down, there's only one choice to do. That's always to get back up. I'll see you again next week for another amazing episode of Getting Back Up. See you then.